This week we are going to focus on balance activities, a little bit different from just your vestibular system and balance. So the first place we're going to start is with proprioception. If we're going to balance on our feet, we need to be able to feel them. I've got two different balls. One is a toy ball. It's a little slicker than my yoga tune-up ball, which has a little more grip to the texture. You can also use a tennis ball, a racket ball, anything you have around the house. You don't have to go and buy a special ball. So I'm going to start with rolling my foot on the ball. One of the first things that I like to do is put pressure into each knuckle along my foot. So I'm just moving my foot along, trying to get each section. Then after I've done that, I'm just rolling my foot side to side. You can spend a lot longer on this than I am. This is just a demonstration. Now I'm coming on and off my arch and moving it a little bit within my arch. I might even go a little further back and back again. And then I'll put my forefoot down and I'll get my heel on it. And today I just feel like pressing my heel in and just do a teeny wiggle. And then I might just roll forward and back. And of course, you can use a chair or a countertop or a wall to steady yourself. This is the proprioception part, not the balance part. So pressing into each knuckle again, just moving through. And then I'm rolling back and forth, trying to have my toes be somewhat relaxed. And then going into my arch, moving around within my arch, noticing that there are certain points where I can actually feel that there must be a fascial restriction because it sends a little tightness up into a toe. So we're just noticing all the things. And then I'm getting on my heel and I'm stepping into it. Maybe moving back and forth a little bit and maybe rolling back and forth here. And under normal circumstances, I would spend more time doing that. But that is enough for us to definitely feel a little bit more of the ground underneath our toes. So just lift all your toes and then lower them back down. Make sure your hips are over your heels so you're not standing with your pelvis thrust forward. And then notice how you stand in your foot. I might touch a wall and close my eyes, or just close my eyes and really notice what I feel. Where's the weight? Is it evenly distributed, or is it more in the front toes, more on the sides or the insides, outsides, insides? Just notice, and let's see if you can find a way to get your weight more evenly distributed. Can you press down the mound of your big toe and the mound of your little toe and the heel? Can you feel all of those alive and working? So now what we're going to do is play a little game with this. I'm going to press the mound of my big toes into the ground. And then I'm going to do a little motion like I'm screwing in my ankles. So I'm pressing down here and I'm screwing in my ankles a little bit, feeling like I've got a rotation that goes all the way up. But I'm not trying to do a major squeeze with my glutes or a major knee tightening. So it's a gentle thing. I press down through the mound of the big toes. I feel that little bit of rotation, and now I'm spreading my toes and I'm going to try to go up. So trying to go up evenly, even have my pinky toe involved, and come back down. So I'm going to engage my ankles This way I'm hoping that I come up straight without leaning out to the outsides of my feet. That happens to a lot of people. And come back down. Again, you can hold on to something. So we're not tensing up in our knees or our glutes, but we do have a little rotational feeling, and then lifting up and coming down. Then what we're going to do is I'm going to turn sideways. We're going to try to do this same thing on a tightrope. So what I suggest is definitely stand near a wall or have your hand on a chair. I'm not going to look down at my feet. I'm going to get that feeling of my big toe, metatarsal, really pressing into the ground, a little rotation in both of my legs, and then coming up and coming down. Now that I'm familiar with it, I'm going to try to do this same thing. And I notice that my back foot wants to sickle out. So, and even the front foot a little bit. So I'm going to think about exhaling and drawing a marble up, inner thighs, pubic bone, all the way up and behind my belly button. And the idea is big toe metatarsal down, screwing in your foot, and wow, I just felt like I was almost going to get dizzy for a second there. And up. And down. And then I'll switch. Always hold on to something as you get yourself set up. I'm not locking out my knees, by the way. So pressing down into my big toe metatarsals. Sometimes it makes you feel a little wobbly to do that. Then screw in your ankles, and that should give you weight throughout your entire foot. And then come on up. And come back down. So big toe metatarsals down, screw in your foot, draw a marble up. That should give you the muscular engagement and stabilization in your core. So exhale like you're blowing out birthday candles. See that marble traveling up from your pubic bone behind your belly button. And come back down. So that is the little game you played and the little exercise you did to start getting balancing activities involved in how you move. Today we're going to add on to what we did yesterday by changing the surface upon which we do the exercises from yesterday. You could just add a thin blanket, but what I really like to do, or you could get really aggressive and add a pillow. But what I love to do is just take another yoga mat so it's sticky and your feet will do well on it. And we're going to do the experiment of the activities here. So the first thing, just noticing how you stand in your feet. Sometimes I close my eyes so I can get a sense of, is my pelvis over my heels? I can really feel it when I close my eyes and just listen to my body. So now that I've done that, I'm looking down at my toes and my feet are generally facing forward. My hips are over my ankles, and I'm going to press down through the big toe metatarsal. So I'm not talking about pressing down up here at the tip of my toe. I'm talking about the pad of my big toe to give me a sense that a lot of us roll out. So I'm giving myself a sense of the whole forefoot being on the ground. Then what I'm going to do is also press through my heels, and I'm going to feel like I'm rotating my leg to sort of screw my ankles in. By doing that, I've got a sense of my whole foot firmly on the ground. And with that, then up on my toes. And when I use that exhale, as we learned yesterday, it really helps me stay firm and steady through my inner unit to assist what's going on with my legs. So there needs to be a lot of inner thigh in addition to the core inner unit. and the whole foot. So once again, pad of my foot, big toe pad, heels and ankles screwing in, and then exhale. I wanted to turn my left foot out, so I'm going to do it again. Much better. Good. So then, just like before, we're going to add a tightrope. So I was trying to go sideways, I don't know why. So here I am on my tightrope. I am using the wall to help me get on the tightrope. It's much harder to know where you're fully balanced because it's not like both hips are balanced squarely over the same spot. If you know what I mean, that forward leg makes it kind of hard. So I'm going to balance myself over the rear foot to start. Put a little more weight into the front leg. Both big toe metatarsals down. Screw in both legs and then and come on up. This is harder. I feel the wiggliness of the pad makes it not as easy. And you could, I don't know if you could see my legs shaking, but they are. And my toes wiggling, even when I'm just standing here. So again, woo. Big toe metatarsals. My toes were squishing. That wasn't good. Big toe metatarsals, get everything down on the ground. Screw in my feet. Use that exhale and come on up. Good. And I'm going to reverse it. Give it a try with the other direction. Oh my gosh, this is a great example in how things don't always go the way you want them to. Big toe metatarsals down, screw in my feet, use my exhale, and come on down. Same thing. Big toe metatarsals, get my foot completely on the ground, screw in my ankles, and there I am. Now you can continue to do this as many times as you like. I feel like I need to walk it out a little bit. I created a little bit of extra tension in my outside ankles. So that means I was working hard to not let go of the outside and flop out. So not a bad thing. Our balance activity today centers around walking. So the first place we're going to start is with the challenge of walking on a tightrope. So it's a way of walking that I don't recommend people actually do, except for as a challenge. So don't do this when you're walking down the street or through a field. You're going to put one foot right in front of the other. I'm looking down, woo, to make sure I do it. And then I turn around. So you can definitely have your hand ready to touch a wall. And slow is harder. So I'm not encouraging fast. Momentum can hide a world of problems. So we're trying to go really slow. And it gets better the more you do it. You get the hang of it. There. Good. Then we go to something that may be a little worrisome to some of you, but I'd like you to try it even if you're holding someone's hand. So there, you can also hold on to the wall or have a walking stick. We're going to walk the edges of our mat, and maybe we'll try it. We start the first time, we're just looking ahead. We're not looking down. And anybody who feels really uncomfortable with the phase where we close our eyes, please just continue to try to do this without looking down. And I missed the edge, so I didn't look down, I just felt for it. I've done one circle. So now I'm going to try shading my eyes. So I'm not going to close them completely. So my eyes are shaded, and I always have my hands to give me a feel for where I am in space. Again, I kind of misjudged where I thought maybe the corner was going to be. Getting my mat so close to the wall was a little bit of a problem. Now I've shut my eyes more, but you certainly don't have to. So play with that. See if maybe the challenge for you right now is to just not look at your feet and walk around, and I'm jumping the edge, walk around with your eyes open, but you're looking straight ahead. The next thing that becomes difficult is playing with stepping on something unstable as you walk. So it would be something like this. I'm going to leave my right foot down. I'll step with my left and continue. And then I'll come back to this side and I'll leave my left foot down, step with my right, and continue. That was pretty easy. If that wasn't easy for you, then leave it as something like a yoga mat rolled in half. The next thing I'm going to go to is a bolster. So it's higher and it's unstable. We're not at a Bosu ball right now. This is at home and this is gentle. So you have your wall nearby. My right leg will be stable. Step up and walk over. And then I'll come up again and my left leg will be stable. Step up with my right and walk over. Right leg is stable. Step up with my left and walk over. I know this doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but it actually is when you start doing it without looking down. So you start looking straight ahead and just getting used to feeling the surface with your foot and knowing what to do and how to stabilize yourself. So those are really fun activities, and they really do train you to feel the ground with your feet. Today becomes more difficult. We are going to work on single leg activities. So not just standing still on one leg. The real opportunity is to look at some movement with one leg on the ground. So I'm going to come down to a lunge. And what I'm going to do in the lunge is I'm going to use a little bit of padding. Not a lot. It's not something that's going to make me super wobbly, but just a little bit of padding for my knee because I don't have a squishy mat and the floor is pretty hard. So first thing I want to do in my low lunge is get myself straight up and down. Try to have my pubic bone and my frontal hip bones in the same plane. So I'm not super tucked and I'm not untucked. It feels like a little bit of a tuck to get myself in that same plane. Then I'm going to sort of plug this femur bone in to the hip socket. That just makes me feel engaged and ready to go. I do have to use that exhale where you're blowing out candles and you draw that marble up and under your belly button. You're really going to need that, and you're going to need staying tall. We don't want to slump into the standing leg. So it is the front leg that we're going to try to lift off. So are you ready? And please have something nearby to hold if you need it. So I'm going to exhale, and partway through the exhale, I will lift this leg off the ground. And there we go. And the idea is to work with the imbalances. That's really part of balance, is figuring out how your body can quickly react to the instability that it feels. So this is really good balance training. So now we're back again. This is always hard. So I'm getting my pubic bone and my hip bones in the same plane. I'm ready. And I'm going to exhale and draw up. I don't do it right away. I wait until I've got some core engagement going. So this is my more difficult side. I'm very excited. I didn't just fall down immediately. I am trying to remember to stay tall in that standing hip. That's really an important part. So I'm going to do one more time. We'll think about staying tall in the standing hip, plugged in my femur. I definitely like my hands for balance. Even if it doesn't do anything, it makes me think it does. And then we'll switch to the other side. And if for you this is just a momentary lift and then putting your foot back down, that's fine. So, plugging in, standing tall, same plane. So there's multiple breaths. Use that exhale and come back down. So the natural progression from that is we're going to walk with a knee lift. So back at one end, and I'm going to step forward and lift my right leg and put it down. Each time I do this, I am thinking about where my pelvis is, right over my ankle. I'm thinking about, I don't have to lift it super high. I could actually just do this, but it's a hold. The hold is what's important. I'm trying to have good walking alignment, and on that standing leg, I've injected a poof of air into my hip. I'm not letting it slip out to the side, and I'm engaging the inner thigh as part of blowing out the candles and feeling my core support me. Tall. And it's okay to have a wiggle. Ah, that was a good wiggle. There we go. Centered it. Notice how the exhale really helped me center it. So that's your activity. You can go back and forth a number of times, and you really should feel your medial glute, your side bottom, really turn on when you are right here. That should be lit up. So that's your goal for today. Your job for today is to go for a walk outside. So you must dress appropriately, obviously, and I just want to talk to you about all the work we've done on your foot, having the proprioception and the actions to help you feel the ground underneath you. It's sort of put to waste if you're in the wrong shoes. So one of the things I want to show you is the difference between, and this isn't even a very big heel, but the difference between this shoe and this shoe. This is a Lems. There are other brands like Vivo Barefoot and Zero shoes that are all like this. They are zero lift shoes. So they're designed to be no change in gradient. The toe box is really good and wide, and your foot really feels the contours of the ground. It's a very flexible shoe. So your foot is able to do its job. What we find in a shoe like this one actually is a little flexible, not as flexible, and it has this lift right here. If you go to Nikes, you can find zero lift shoes, And you can actually, on the boxes, it'll tell you how much this incline is, and that's really helpful. One of the things, a lot of people love walking in New Balance shoes, but there is not a New Balance shoe at this time that has zero lift. So, just so you know. One of the other things I wanted to show you is when you go for a ballet flat, it's really awesome to get one that's super flexible. And yes, there is some sole on here. It's not as though the fabric is on the ground, but it allows me to feel the ground much more easily. And although it's made to look kind of cute, not a super narrow toe, but the fabric is flexible enough that my toes can spread out, and you do want that. Sometimes people think, oh, well, getting my toes to spread out, let's wear a flip-flop. But what happens with a flip-flop is your feet grip. And we are already in a position from being in shoes so much that we've got this little grippy toe action sometimes when we're just resting. And we really want to be feeling the ground. So I think this is a great side of the pool, going to the beach item, but not all the time. Don't wear it on your errands anymore. Another thing I wanted to show you, this one is a zero shoe. It is a hiking boot, but it's not all built up. It's much less flexible than the zero walking shoe, and that is because it is trying to give you a little more, there we go, with a little more push I can bend it. It's trying to give you a little more support for hiking, and thus the ankle support as well. But this works really well. Notice the difference. This is not a hiking shoe, obviously, but I wanted to show you the difference because a lot of hiking boots look somewhat like this. This one is feeling the ground. This one is not. There's just no way to feel the ground beneath you in this kind of shoe. And the toe box is narrow, so all your toes aren't going to be getting feedback from the ground. That's just the way it is. Not that I wouldn't wear those, I obviously do, for something fancier, something where I'm going out, not for a full day. This is the crazy part. These are these are Vibrams, and they're 5-finger or 5-toe shoes, super flexible, super easy to use, very interesting. There's no arch support whatsoever. You can bend it and twist it in any direction. You could purchase an arch, like a Dr. Scholl's arch, and then wear this. It's a lovely experiment. I won't wear it for a 5-mile walk because I'm not wearing it with socks, and it starts to sort of rub on the bottom of my foot, almost like I'm going to get a blister down there. Over time, I suppose I would get used to it. But this is a great shorter 2-mile walk, and this is a great hike. That's a zero. And then my all-time favorite, which is why they look so dirty, my Lems. Super comfortable, teeny bit of arch support. You could purchase even more if you need it. And have fun. Go out and take a good long walk today, as long as you can tolerate.